You're about to pay a China supplier for the first time, and you get this message: can you pay in RMB, or please pay USD to our account? And you're thinking, which one costs me less? Which one is safer? Because getting this wrong can mean delays, short payments, or your supplier complaining before production even starts. Today I'm walking you through exactly how to decide, plus what to check before you hit send so nothing goes wrong. We help businesses pay overseas suppliers every day at WorldFirst, especially into China. This isn't financial advice, just the real patterns we see and the checks that prevent delays and short-received issues. Here's what we'll cover. What actually changes when you pay in CNY versus USD? Who ends up paying the FX cost? Because someone always does. 5 questions to help you decide in under 3 minutes, and what to verify before sending payment so it doesn't fail or arrive short. Quick answer: if your supplier prices in RMB and runs their business in RMB, paying CNY actually causes fewer issues. If everything's been quoted and contracted in USD, paying USD keeps things clean. The real answer? It depends on who's holding the exchange rate risk, where hidden fees show up, and how certain you are about what your supplier actually receives. Let me break it down. Here's something most people don't realize. The currency you choose affects 4 different parts of your transaction, and most buyers only think about one of them. Let me show you what you're actually controlling when you pick CNY or USD. Currency choice affects 4 things people don't always think about. First, price certainty. If you pay in CNY, you lock what the supplier receives. No surprises on their end. If you pay in USD, they convert later and you might not love the rate they get, or they might complain about it. Second, hidden costs. Here's where the short received problem starts. Your supplier says, you sent $10,000 but we only got $96.50. What happened? 3 invisible deductions. The exchange rate spread your bank took, the intermediary bank's handling fee, and the receiving bank's local charge. None of these show up on your transfer receipt, but they all eat into what your supplier actually receives. This is why currency choice matters. It's not abstract FX theory, it's whether your supplier starts production on time or sends you a "please pay the difference" message 3 days later. Third, speed and failure rate. More currency conversions means more stops along the way, which means more chances for payment delays, rejections, or compliance questions. Fourth, negotiation leverage. Most suppliers quote in USD for export, but they pay all their costs in RMB: wages, materials, local shipping. If you understand this, currency choice can actually help you negotiate better prices. Now that you know what's actually at stake, here are the 5 questions that will make your decision obvious. Question 3 is the one that trips up most first-time importers, so pay attention to that one. Before you decide, answer these 5 questions. They'll make it obvious. Question number 1. What currency is on your contract and invoice? If your paperwork says USD everywhere, pay in USD. If it says CNY, pay in CNY. Don't mix it up unless you've talked it through with your supplier in writing. Rule is simple: match your paperwork. Question number 2. Who's holding the exchange rate risk? Here's what most people miss. If you pay USD and the supplier converts to RMB later, they take the FX risk and they'll protect themselves. That shows up as high unit prices or surprise adjustment fees if rates move. If you pay CNY, you take the FX risk, but you also control when you convert and at what rate. The rule is whoever holds the risk will pad their numbers. Choose who that should be. Question number 3. Where's the supplier's bank account actually located? Big difference between a mainland China CNY account versus a USD account in Hong Kong or somewhere else. Why? Because it changes routing, speed, and how likely deductions are. Rule is pay in the currency that matches where the account actually is. Question number 4. What currency does the supplier actually operate in? If they're paying workers, buying materials, and running operations in RMB, they probably prefer RMB. When you pay them directly in their operating currency, it removes friction and sometimes gives you negotiating room. Rule is match their operating currency when you can. Question number 5. Is this a deposit or final payment tied to production or shipment? For payments that control whether production starts or goods get released, predictability matters more than saving 0.5% on FX. When timing is critical, optimize for arrives correctly on time, not clever FX moves. Alright, so those are the questions. But knowing the questions isn't enough. Let me show you real scenarios where CNY clearly wins, and I'll also tell you the one downside of paying in CNY that nobody talks about. Let me show you when CNY typically works better. Scenario number 1. Small order and supplier asks for RMB. If you're doing a small test order and they want RMB, just pay in RMB. It removes the whole "we received less than expected" conversation before it starts. Scenario number 2. Your supplier keeps adjusting prices because of exchange rates. Ever get this message? USD rate changed, need to adjust pricing. That's a red flag that FX is becoming part of every negotiation. Paying CNY can stabilize things. Here's RMB, rate is locked. Scenario number 3. Supplier prefers it for their accounting. Some factories just prefer RMB for tax filing and local bookkeeping. Less paperwork on their end means smoother relationship. The CNY downside though, you need to understand what rate you're getting and what your total conversion cost is. Sometimes CNY is cheaper, sometimes it's not. Don't assume. Now you might be thinking, okay, but my contract is in USD and my supplier has always worked in USD. Does that mean USD is better for me? Let me show you when USD actually makes sense, and more importantly, when it still causes problems even if you think you did everything right. Now, when does USD work better? Scenario number 4. Everything in your contract is USD. If you negotiated in USD, signed contracts in USD, and got invoices in USD, especially from export-focused factories, pay in USD. It keeps everything aligned and reduces disputes. Scenario number 5. Supplier gives you a USD account and says full amount must arrive. If they give you specific instructions about receiving the full amount and it's a USD account, paying USD can work. But only if you understand what fees you're actually paying, how routing works, and what proof of payment you'll get. The USD downside? Paying in USD doesn't automatically mean no surprises. Short payments still happen when banks deduct fees in the middle or when the supplier converts at a worse rate than expected and complains later. So you've heard the CNY scenarios, you've heard the USD scenarios, but there's one technical detail that trips up more payments than anything else, and most buyers don't even know it exists. Let me explain the CNY versus CNH confusion, because this is where a lot of payment problems actually start. Here's something that sounds boring but causes expensive mistakes. CNY and CNH are not the same thing. CNY is onshore RMB, that's mainland China, domestic settlement context. CNH is offshore RMB. That's the version used in cross-border contexts, often through Hong Kong and other offshore centers. Most buyers treat these as interchangeable. Operationally, they are not. Here's where it goes wrong. Your supplier says, we accept RMB. You assume that means you can pay either way. You send CNH because your payment platform makes it easy, but their account is set up for CNY only. Now there's an extra conversion step you didn't plan for, or worse, the payment gets held because the routing doesn't match their receiving setup. So here's the rule. Before you send, ask the supplier to confirm in writing, not just RMB is fine. You need, we have a mainland CNY account, or we accept CNH settlement. If they can't give you a clear answer, that's a red flag. It means they don't understand their own banking setup, and you're about to become the person who figures it out the expensive way. And here's the reality check. When payments fail because of CNY versus CNH confusion, it's not fast to fix. The money doesn't just bounce back in 10 minutes. It can take days to trace, and in the meantime, your production slot might get reallocated. Look, whether you use a specialized platform or your regular bank, you want 3 things. First, the ability to pay in the currency that matches your deal, without creating extra conversion steps. Second, cost clarity, because hidden lifting fees are real reason suppliers end up short received and ask you to top up. Third, speed when timing matters. Suppliers prioritize buyers who pay faster, especially around peak season and production slots. That's the baseline. Everything else is just features. This is basically why we built WorldFirst the way we did. Dedicated local rails into China and Hong Kong, so you're not relying purely on international Swift hops, and on USD routes, most payments clear in Asia within hours, which is the difference between confirmed today and stuck in limbo. The other piece people underestimate is visibility. If you can't see where the money is, you can't manage the supplier relationship. So tracking matters. WorldFirst includes real-time payment tracking plus FX tools like spot, forwards, and firm orders, so you can control the total outcome, not just hope the bank got it right. One more practical tip: a lot of suppliers already use WorldFirst. If your supplier is already set up, it can be even smoother because both sides are on the same rails. Bottom line, match your invoice currency, understand who holds the FX risk, and verify those details before you send anything. The CNY versus CNH distinction matters more than people think, and the short received problem is almost always about hidden deductions, not dishonest suppliers. If you're about to make a payment into China and you want it to land cleanly, you can sign up for WorldFirst using the link below. And if you want more practical, no fluff guides like this for real importer problems, subscribe to the channel.